Hello everyone. Good evening to all the viewers at the Legal Game. This is Kushagra Goyal, and to a very warm welcome to all the viewers. I have sincere apologies from to all of you for missing out a day. But you all know that we did face some technical issues if you have watched October 22nd newspaper analysis, and there were some discrepancies in the technical aspect that you were not able to hear me properly or the video was not very clear. So, therefore, on that note, good evening to all of you once again. Very warm welcome. And from now, we'll be making the series regular. Hopefully, the setup is correct. Please let me know in the comments of the video if you do face any technical issues, if you have any suggestions for that. So, on that note, thank you so much once again for tuning in. Good evening from my side. Good evening, Muskan. Good evening to you also. So, I'll be beginning with the newspaper analysis today because last time most of you were not able to see what I was writing, right? So, we are going to try to get things better this time, right? So, we are beginning on a Sunday newspaper. That means there are no editorials today, right? No editorials. But what will we have today is a certain set of other articles, especially the F uh, question section, right? FAQ section that we'll be doing today, right? So the purpose of the newspaper series is very, very clear to you to keep all of you in the prep related to the CLAT examination so that you don't lose track of what is happening in the country right now, right? Majority of the questions for the CLAT examination comes from the newspaper itself or current related events, okay? Therefore, it becomes the big point in terms of your preparation, right? So we'll be moving on, right? So now moving with the headlines. The first news that we'll be talking about today is so on the front page we see curfew internet curbs a better pill to save Kashmiri lives. That is by our Home Minister Amit Shah. So what is this news about and why do we need to take note of it? So this one relates to Article 370's abrogation. All right. He's talking about it here in the article also. So I'll be zooming in a little and taking you to those lines. Okay. Now, this is related to October 5th, 2019. So now the constitutional term is the first thing that you have to keep a note of. That is Article 370. Now, what has happened since then? Why are we talking about it right now? Is because first, there has been a rise of in militant activity in Kashmir Valley. All right, a rise in militant activity. 37 Indians have been killed, civilians. All right, and this is not just limited to the violence towards a minority community. This is targeting Muslims also. So 21 Muslims, and the rest have been all Hindus. So it's been a rise in violence recently. And the governor there, that is Manoj Sinha, he has pointed out. So what do we need? The second fact that we have to note down is the administrative setup in Jammu and Kashmir right now. Okay. So what all do you we need to know right now? First, what has happened? So you need to be aware of Article 370. Article 370 was a temporary measure introduced during the instrument of accession was signed between the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir and the Indian country. right? So this is the provision article, the administrative setup. So right now it is a union territory. Okay. In terms of this, there is no elected government there right now. Okay. Now, our Home Minister, during his 3-day visit, he has called on that elections will be conducted once the exercise of delimitation is concluded. Okay. So that is the next part of constitutional GK that you need to know, right? Some of the questions that we'll get in the newspaper or in the examination will also be part of constitutional GK. So Article 370 is constitutional GK. The Delimitation Commission is also constitutional GK. Okay. Then, so that's about it from this headline primarily. Okay. As of now. Then the next thing that we have to see is the gaps between first and second dose in India is starkest in India. That is, the amount of time period given between first dose and second dose in India is the highest in comparison to other countries. Why? Because right now we are giving dose Covishield vaccine, which is the majority given vaccine. 85% of the population among the 100 crore doses have been given the Covishield vaccine, and the gap between the Covishield doses is 84 days of minimum, right? So that is also something we need to know. On October 22nd, also, we had talked about COVID-19 vaccines. They formulate the one more important part of our CLAT preparation, COVID-19 per se. Okay, then we move on. Now, this on the right hand side, the news is of no relevance for us, so we are skipping it. The call to bifurcate Assam grows louder. Okay, my voice is breaking. All right, so um, is it better now? Let me just check. The I hope it is better now. So I'll continuously speak just to avoid any disturbance in the sound. The next part is called to bifurcate Assam grows louder. Now, who has the power to create new states, divide the territory of states? All of that is related to the central government or the union parliament. So, the first question that becomes from this is who has power to create a new state? Um, all right, so extremely sorry for the gap in between. Something happened to the laptop there. All right, probably the port got disconnected with the charger. So sorry for that. But yeah, so we were there. Who has power to create a new state? All right. So this question is part of your constitutional GK again or legal GK. Okay. The answer to this question is I'll write in a different color is the all right, so this just changes okay, union parliament. All right, every time there is a news about such event or demand for creation of a new state, Okay, always the answer will be the Union Parliament. Okay, now why do we need to know about this? Is because recently there have been events for demand of bifurcation in Assam. Why? Because this is something that has been happening in the hill states very often, okay? And it's not the first time that Assam has been bifurcated. So when India got independence, there was only one state in the northeast, that was Assam. Then Assam was divided based on tribal origins in multiple other territories. Okay, so right now we have seven states there, right? Now there is a demand to divide it even further, okay, which is between the Bengali majority Barak Valley, okay, and in retaliation to the Assamese majority of the state. So the Barak Valley has a majority of Bengali speaking people. Apart from that, the state in general has a Assamese speaking majority. So this is a language based demand for division. Now, we already know that Indian states have been created primarily on the basis of linguistic basis, right? In 1956, we began the process of creation of Indian states on the basis of linguistic lines. So this demand would not be out of tune in uh, relation to all the other states also. Right? Most of the states have been created on basis of language. Okay, so we move on to the next part. All right. Okay. So right. Apart from this, on the front page, there is nothing much of note for us. Biocomposer, a better solution, say farmers, as trust builds. So last year, the Delhi government, the um, one in the Union Territory of Delhi, they came up with a solution to prevent stubble burning, all right, which is a biodecomposer. Now, the details about that, it is now becoming a better solution. Farmers feel they're building trust with it instead of burning. Burning creates a lot of pollution. Now, usually Delhi has the same level of pollution, but what happens is in the winter months, the capital region suffers a lot of smog. Why? Because the winds become denser, so they retain the carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide for a longer time period. When we burn, sulfur dioxide also gets released. All of that becomes a deadly combination for the population. Okay, so this is why now nothing of much note to be done here. Okay, political news on the second page. Once again, nothing to note down here for us. All right. Right. Now, on the third page also, it is state specific, so nothing to note. Then again, more political news, but this is related to a tragedy that has happened in the Uttarkashi district about trekkers. Okay. Now, in relation to this also, nothing of much to be noted down per se. All right, so you can just skim through it. So will not be dealing. Then is something that has been happening in the courts more recently. So legal news. Every time there is some legal news, we'll take a note of it. Okay, right? That becomes part. Now Karnataka High Court is hearing petitions which challenge the ban on online gaming. Online games recently, if you have heard, all of you will must have watched, some of you must have watched the IPL, right? There are games speculative games such as the Dream 11, right? Or MPL. You must have come across these ads. Now, these are whether they are wagering contracts or not, cause or are they something related to skill? Because if it is a wager agreement, then it is gambling, and gambling can be banned on public morality. If it is a game of skill, then it cannot be banned, or the state needs to come up with reasons of why it is so. All right. So now Karnataka High Court will start hearing petitions about ban on these online games. All right. So we'll be keeping an eye on this news. Okay. Then, so see, every time there is political news, we have to skip that. We don't have to deal with it at all. Okay. All right. So just my hand was there. Classifieds. Oh, yep. So on page 6 again, uh, world's biggest cricket bat unveiled in Hyderabad. So now this becomes, these are the kind of questions that are asked in some niche law exams. All right. So where was the first world's largest cricket bat unveiled in Hyderabad? This has been sponsored by Royal Challenge. All right, Royal Stag, Seagrams or Seagrams Royal Stag. Okay, Mohammad Azharuddin, who is also the chairman of Hyderabad Cricket Association, has launched it together. Okay, now this is the world's largest bat designed by Fernand Richard India Limited. What is the measurement of the bat? 56.10 feet. Okay, it weighs 9 ton of weight. Okay, it's part of wishing well to the Indian team that begins its challenge in the World T20 today. Okay, so this is two kind of questions can be asked. Where was the world's largest cricket bat unveiled? Or which association unveiled the largest cricket bat in Hyderabad? Okay, so those kind of questions you can get, right? Then we move on, right? So again, political news, heavy rain in Kerala triggers fear of another round of floods. This is in the Western Ghat. We are going to read an article about it today of why, whether it is related to climate change or not. All right. And the Western Ghats in general, there is an entire uh, profile that the Hindu has done today on this. Okay, so we'll be dealing with that. Now we move on with page 8. Okay, three more held in the Lakhimpur Kheri case. Lakhimpur Kheri, the infamous violent overrunning of farmers' protest by a car and which killed four farmers. The ensuing violence also led to four other workers from the opposing party being killed. So investigation have been ongoing for that. Now moving on, apart from this, all of this is political news again. Then here in the right corner is the news about warns of strict tighter restrictions in Kashmir. What are these restrictions and why are they important? Okay, so this news, tighter ones, restrictions imposed following scrapping, which could freedom of movement. Why do we need to know about this? Is relation to the case of Anuradha Bhasin versus Union of India. This case, what did this case deal with? Okay, that is also something that is equally important for us. All right, why is it important? Because This one is in relation to how internet in a area cannot be prohibited indefinitely, or Article 19 cannot be limited indefinitely. All right. This was the judgment of the Supreme Court. Okay. So if the state wants to reimpose these restrictions, it has to give a reasonable reason for it. Reason देना पड़ेगा to have such a restriction in place. All right. So this is the case of Anuradha Basheen versus Union of India is part of your legal reasoning. You cannot skip it. It is part of your constitution. It is part of your legal reasoning. आप उसे skip नहीं कर सकते. Okay? It's one of the most important ones. All right. So I'm getting some other message also in the chat. I am looking at your chats also, just in case any of you ask me any questions. Okay, we move on. All right. Now, the one big headline to be noted down in today's newspaper is the Indian entry to the Oscars. Tamil drama Kuzhangal is India's official entry for the Oscars. What is it? Is directed by filmmaker Vinodhraj PS. All right. It will be India's official entry for the 94th Academy Awards. So, the film has already won the award, the Tiger Award for Best Film at the International Film Festival in Rotterdam. Okay, it's a film about an alcohol addict who loses his wife, who leaves him, and then he goes to find her again. All right, a beautiful film. If you get a chance, you should watch it. Okay, then apart from this is sustainable farming, not important for us from CLAT perspective. Okay, then various vaccine manufacturers met the prime minister. Okay, now in terms of this, once again, I have told you the vaccines approved in India, all right, they become important. All of these vaccines makers, okay, so first was Cyrus Poonawalla and his son Adhar Poonawalla, who's the CEO of Serum Institute, who are manufacturing the Covishield vaccine. For India's obligation under the COVAX initiative, the Covishield vaccine is very important. The second is the Zydus Cadila B vaccine, which is the first DNA vaccine of the world. And then the Covaxin, all right, the one based on the common cold virus. It's a very traditional method of vaccine making. Okay, so this is the other news that we need to note. Now we move on to national news. In terms of this, the Chief Justice of India was talking about something very important related to NJIAI. What is this? Chief Justice Ramana, as soon as he was about to take position as the Chief Justice of India, has been talking about the National Judicial Infrastructure Authority of India. a dedicated body meant to ensure infrastructure for judiciary. India not only has shortage of judges, but even for those judges, there is not enough infrastructure. Recently, we saw shootings take place in the court, judges being run over, hit and run case in Bihar. So, in that regard, he was inaugurating a new wing of the Aurangabad bench of the Maharashtra High Court. In that, he pointed out the dismissal state of Indian judicial infrastructure. That total courtrooms are 20,000 only against the sanctioned strength of 24,280. 16% have toilets, 16% do not have gents toilet, only 54% have complexes with purified water drinking facility, and only 32 of courtrooms have separate record rooms. A court without a record is no court at all. India follows a common law system. That is, we rely on the principle of precedent, right? If there is no memory of anything, there is no precedent. If there is no precedent, there is no record. All right, nothing to follow for the other courts. So this is why it is very important. Then moving on, more political news. UK strike group in India to forge stronger ties. On 22nd, we had talked about HMS Queen Elizabeth, a dedicated aircraft carrier for fifth generation aircraft coming to India for joint military exercises. All right, so 22nd October के video में we have talked about it. Go back and check that. Okay. Then moving on is Turkey orders expulsion of 10 diplomats. So on the profile page, we'll be talking about seeking Kavala's release. Who is this person, Kavala? What is the story behind? All right. The one big news for us, though, is on the right hand side, is about the trade levels between India. For the first time in their history, India and China's trade will touch 100 billion mark, $100 billion mark, within which the ratio of our trade with China is 30 is to 70. 70 comes in, 30 goes out. All right. So despite the border tensions, everything, as pointed out in the article, the core problem is our trade imbalance. We are taking far more from China, giving it far less. We are also one of those countries that, even though it knows that China means harm to us, we have no way of actually tackling them right now. All right. We are very short on that regard. So, why this is a concept of trade imbalance? Okay. There is also a suggestion that India has been colonized by China right now. Okay. India is a colony of China. All right. Now, I'll tell you why that is the case. This is what the article is also talking about, or the risk. This trade imbalance, all right, what does it do, or what does it say? We What do we send to China? Raw material. What do we import from them? Finished goods. Alright. Most of the goods for which we rely on China are goods that we don't make on our own. When we do that, we are a price taker, or we become a price taker. When we become a price taker, we are at the mercy of the other country. So even if we are a victim of their expansionism right now, we are also at their mercy for so many of our basic necessities, such as APIs. These are essential for medicines. If we have to manufacture medicines, we need APIs from China. If we have to manufacture electrical components or electrical goods, we need Chinese electrical equipments, right? Because we do not make that heavy machinery in India. So this is the trade imbalance that is rising between India. Even though we are reaching a higher stage with them, the risk of us becoming their colonies also increasing day by day. Okay, then we move on. UN fears mass crime as troops assemble in Myanmar. What is this about? This news relates to the Rakhine province, where already, even when the democratic government of Myanmar was there, violence had been carried out on the Rohingya Muslims. When the northern territories of Myanmar are on the boil, it leads to a refugee influx in India. Alright, this influx creates a pressure on the country, and that is the risk. Now, there is a chance that mass troop assembly is going to happen, leading to a further refugee influx. Alright, the background of it is February 1 this year. Alright, military coup happened in Myanmar. Okay, the military under General Mya Hall Ling took over from Aung San Suu Kyi's elected government and overthrew them. Alright, that is the news. Then Russia China to hold first joint patrol in the region. This is also very important news. Okay, why? We have formulated or we are member of the Quad and then the AUKUS alliance. All are targeted towards the Pacific Ocean. Alright. So now if Russia and China, two navies who are also close together, if they are also combining, that's the threat. So what we need to know, this puts in highlight the news or the understanding of Quad and AUKUS in focus once again. Okay. Then there is a tiny news on the left hand side, which is Saudi Arabia, one of the world's largest exporter of crude oil, has announced net zero emissions by 2030, 2060. Okay, tomorrow at in the afternoon at 2:30, I'm taking a session to explain what is carbon neutrality and the history of climate change. Okay, so stay tuned for that session and we'll be discussing that in a separate video altogether. Alright, but the question then comes, which of the countries recently announced carbon neutrality or to reach net zero by 2060? One of the largest oil producing country recently announced target to reach net zero. Which among the following it is? The answer will be Saudi Arabia. Okay. Then on the science page. On the science page, one big news that we have to focus on is more studies show superiority of hybrid immunity. What is hybrid immunity? Hybrid immunity is, let's say, A got COVID-19, okay, plus he got vaccine. Okay, this results in better immunity, or what is known as hybrid immunity. Okay, all right. So this is all about hybrid immunity. You may get single immunity when, for example, you have got just COVID-19, or someone who has just taken the COVID-19 vaccines. For example, myself, I've not been contracted with COVID till now, but someone who has already had COVID and then took the vaccines, their immunity lasts longer. All right. So this is the study, right? Then on the small side left, hot Jupiters are gas giant planets closely bound to the stars, a paper published in Nature Astronomy. The researchers used Hubble telescope guide to hot Jupiters. Okay, this is another scientific phenomenon in the space, but nothing of real note for us from CLAT perspective. All right, so we'll move on. Nothing to note here apart from this. Then we come to the most important part. All right, so first news on the left hand side is final approval for Covaxin for children. Okay, this is, अब इसके अंदर क्या नोट करना है? The question is, who grants approval? Answer is DCGI, Drugs Controller General of India. Then already we have granted uh, approval for the Zydus COVID vaccine, Zydus Cadila vaccine, which is the DNA vaccine, that is to 12 to 18-year children. Now, later on, the article goes on to discuss other factors, okay, such as why children vaccine is different from the others. अब इसमें हमें कुछ खास नोट नहीं करना है. What we have to worry about is just knowing that immune reaction of children of different ages is different. Some children, that is 2 months to 6 months, they have different. 6 months to 2 years, 2 years to 6 years, 6 years to 12 years. They are all very, very different, right? So thus, this is why their trials are a little different. Okay. Now we move on to one of the other big news that is happening in Maharashtra, which is superstar Shah Rukh Khan's son, Aryan Khan. He has been arrested by NCB. Okay. Now his bail application will be heard by Bombay High Court on Tuesday. It has been found that he was in conscious possession of the drugs. Now what is conscious possession? एक तो होता है possession, जैसे कि I am holding this pen right now. This is in my possession. There is a pen on the table. It is in my control of view. Then there is, let's say, a suit in the cupboard of my room. I am aware of its existence. All right. But, and then there is, let's say, a car parked in another city which I own. Can I claim that I am in possession of that car? No. I may be the owner of that car, but not in conscious possession. But when we are dealing with psychotropic and narcotic substances such as heroin, hash, the definition is a little different. Okay? Which is All right. So he has been accused. The court presumed that Aryan had the intention, motive, and knowledge of contraband said to be found on Merchant and Dhamecha. That in drugs, what happens is, let's say you are my friend, all right? I know that we have gone to a party together. Conscious possession would mean I am aware that you possess these drugs, and the presumption is that we will consume them together. Now, genuinely, let's say a murderer walks into a room, kills A. I had gone with A together. Does that mean that I also intended to kill that person? In a normal situation, no. But in drugs, the case is different. All right. So here, the fact that if a causal link can be established of my awareness of you possessing something wrong and not doing anything to prevent that means that I have conscious possession of that drugs myself. So even if he possessed them, I will be getting the same punishment as if of someone consuming these drugs. Got the difference? The question will in your legal section come regarding possession versus this kind of possession. Okay. All right. So this distinction between the two kinds is what creates the difference in the NDPS Act. The NDPS Act was passed in 1985 at the peak of India America's drug war. All right, so America imposed some pressure on every country, and we also obviously do not want this. So we have put NDPS, someone who consumes drugs, on the same pedestal as someone who commits terrorist attacks. That is the level of how we treat people under the NDPS Act. This is why it is so difficult to get bail in this offense if you are found with possession. Now, he himself has not been found in possession of the drugs, but it is this provision of conscious possession that is being used. Okay, so you need to be aware of this difference. Okay, if you have any doubts about it, let me know. We'll do a in-depth analysis of it tomorrow. All right. Now, moving on to climate change related events in Kerala. Why is India facing bouts of extreme weather? Did Kerala and Uttarakhand receive incessant rain in October due to climate change? So it's a question being asked. Okay, is it really happening? Okay, that's the question in front of us, right? So this article then claims that some places it has happened extra, some places it hasn't. All right. The reason for both is, or the erratic nature of monsoon is heating of oceans or heating of Arabian Sea. This is happening because of climate change. So, in general, we can link it to climate change. If ocean temperature is higher, there will be more rain. If rain is higher, the infrastructure that was created was to withstand the rains of past times. Now we will need even more resilient infrastructure to deal with such more torrential rainfall. Okay, so that's the thing that this is talking about. Then is genetically modified rice grown in India. So right now there is controversy of some genetically modified rice being found in okay in Europe, and it has claimed that in rice flour this kind of rice has been used. How much of it is true? Okay, that is the question here. All right. So once again, now what do we need to know about it? The difference between commercial operation and normal or private consumption. Apart from genetically modified cotton, no commercial operation is permitted of genetically modified crops in India. That's the rule. Okay, that's the scenario of India. All right. So this is the crux of the information that we need to be aware of. Okay. Now we move on to the next page, which is the profile section. All right. The profile section today is dealing with the Western Ghats. The Western Ghats are a world's biodiversity hotspot. All right. They are a UNESCO biodiversity hotspot or a reserve site. Right. They, because of human activities, are undergoing a lot of transformation. Torrential rain, weather, right? Now, for the longest time, there had been report of K. Kasturi Rangam, okay, Madhav Gadgil report, which had been talking about declaring the entirety of Western Ghats as protected or a ecologically sensitive area. Okay, and this needs to be protected. If we do not protect this biodiversity hotspot, not only do we reduce our biodiversity, which stops the natural process of evolution, but it also makes us vulnerable to more climate change and drastic weather events. So this is the risk. But what we need to know is only the Gadgil report. Okay, the Gadgil report had called for declaration of this. So there is already the fact of it being a World Heritage Site in 2012. Okay, that I already told you. Then is the size of how much of this Western Ghat is a sensitive area, that is none of these human activities are permitted. So the crux of the article then deals with all of that. We don't have to worry about it. Okay. Then on the left hand side is the new platform that former Prime President of America is bringing up. That is known as the truth. Okay. So he has been blocked out because of his activities on social media, using false news, spreading radical thoughts. So Facebook and Twitter banned him. Now he has a huge fan following of people who blindly trust him. That is something very popular with right wing politicians, right? They have blind following. Now, because of this, Donald Trump has now recognized, so he wants to stay politically relevant, probably run again for 2024. So he still has that desire to run for 2024. Now, for that to happen, he needs to remain politically relevant, right? So that is the key that he's trying. Okay. So the only thing to be remembered from this is the name of the platform. On the right hand side is a far more important news for us. Okay. Which is about Osman Kavala. Osman Kavala is a businessman in Turkey. Okay, he 1 second. I'll just zoom in on that. Something happened. Okay, in 2016, a coup had taken place, an unsuccessful coup to throw out the current president of Turkey. In relation of that, Osman Kavala has been in jail since 2017. No evidence has been found that he had participated in the 2016 coup. Yet, under false cases, he has been kept in jail. Now, Turkey has taken action against its allies of NATO. Okay, diplomats of 12 countries, 12 NATO allies have been thrown out, in the sense asked to go away from the country because they were peddling in internal affairs of the country in relation to Osman Kavala. Now, he is obviously not a fan of Erdogan, which is why he's not in the good books. In an authoritarian state, whether either you are a follower or you're someone who is unwanted in the system. So, this is the name. Now, for us, what becomes relevant is this part. Okay, not about the person, but in foreign affairs and European Union. Okay, which is the so Turkey being part of EU has to follow the code of ECHR, European Court of Human Rights. Okay, this is like a Supreme Court of Turkey. They need to follow it. Now they or he has not been following that. All right, he has been saying not following the judgments there or for release of Osman Kavala, which is creating tensions with EU and NATO for Turkey, who is getting closer to Russia and China. All right. So this is a geopolitical tussle that is brewing between the former allies. All right. So this is the most that is there in today's newspaper. All right. The other big news is that India's campaign for the T20 World Cup begins today. Okay, Pakistan face off with India at Dubai. This is India's first match. India first won the T20 World Cup in 2007. Since then, we have not won the World Cup. All right, we have never lost to Pakistan in World Cup stage ever. So there is a lot of pressure there also. But let's see what happens. The T20 World Cup is beginning for India today, so that's one sporting news that needs to be kept in mind of. Now, we'll be doing the newspaper analysis regularly from now on at a fixed time period at live sessions. There are two things that I want you all to do. One, let me know any doubts that you face in the comment section. I will be picking them up every day on the next day and resolving them. All right. Second, tomorrow onwards, we'll be having a wide screen on the side where I will take these big important news articles, put out the facts that need to be noted down from them, and explain them for you so that all this erasure of data doesn't happen for us. So, on that note, thank you so much. See you all tomorrow in the next one. If you like the work that we are doing, please give this video a thumbs up. Share it further if you have a friend who needs to know about current GK on a daily basis. And if you are not a subscriber of our channel, please subscribe